Hello there. Today's question is: are you playing hide and seek with your personal growth? Well, that's what we're going to be exploring today as we think about and talk about how, if, or how you're smothering your own growth and by hiding, and how, you know, that's not a good or healthy thing for lots of different reasons. And we're going to explore that some today. Patricia here, glad to be with you. And this topic came about, it was kind of on my list, and not sure it's going to end up in the direction that originally intended, but it's definitely about what it means to want to or have a desire to go to new or fresh levels, but instead of taking that journey, which is very uncertain, I mean, that's for sure, but instead of doing that, kind of go internal, kind of hide, and just kind of you end up stagnating. And there are so many bad reasons for that to be happening because it can lead to lots of frustration and um, just angst, right? Personally. And I was trying to narrow it down to one story, and I realized I probably don't have just one, I have multiple stories of where this would show up. And a lot of times it shows up right before or when there's a new transition period, right? Whether it's one that's related to work or your career, or whether it's one related to your personal growth. I mean, I've seen it happening with relationships. I've seen it happening for sure with career change, and each time it really comes down to what I will say is your next step in your personal growth. Because I think I'm going to be okay with saying this. You can have personal growth without professional growth, but you can't have professional growth without personal growth. And I think I'm going to be okay saying that. I'll noodle that some more. And I say that because when when you are transitioning personally or professionally, there are things that are going to change about you, your perceptions, your values, your beliefs as a person. That's going to affect you in all that you do and all that you say. And so that's why I say, when we're talking about this growth, I'm just going to say personal being inclusive of professional, because I think that for these purposes, they're definitely linked. And growing as a person is always going to help support you in the totality of who you are. And when I say that, it also means that you're not a flat Stanley. I always say that. It's like we're not one dimensional beings, we're multi-dimensional beings. So we have to stop acting like we're flat and trying to compartmentalize our lives. I have done that. That is just hard. It is hard, it is stressful to try and keep these things separate. And a few years ago, I just had to let it go because it was stressing me out too bad. Trying to live this foolish life where people say, "Oh, you got to keep things separate from business and your personal life and all of that." Well, guess what? I am like a whole person. Am I going to go blabbing off about my personal issues or concerns at work? No, we're not talking about that. But we are talking about the fact of recognizing that you are a human being, whether you're at home, in your community, or at work, and being able to live and walk about freely in that. And so that's the perspective I approach about when you're hiding from that next level growth, and how damaging that can be, how debilitating that can be in in the totality of your life, right? In everything, in every way. So, there's lots of different ways that we can smother our growth, right? We can do it by focusing on our obligations to others. Work always comes up. Oh, I got to go take care of this project for work. I got to do this. It could be obligations to others at home, whether you're taking care of aging parents or taking care of uh, children. I would say small children, but it doesn't matter. Mine are much older now, and I'm still having lots of things where they're reaching out and engaging with me to help them with. Whether, it's helping with your spouse or something community, there's always something. That's the point. There's always something. And where we're focusing because of a seeming, obligation to someone else outside of ourselves. Um, and that's the most common way, right? We just make excuses and basically tell ourselves that this other thing, these other people are more important than dealing with our own self. I literally just watched a podcast um, earlier today with the IMO, in my opinion, podcast with Michelle Obama and her brother Craig Robinson, and they were interviewing Taraji Henson, and they literally were talking about aspects of this as women, particularly as Black women, because we take care of the family, we take care of needs in our communities, and we just keep doing that, and again putting other people before ourselves, and how that piles on and becomes this point where we're like, who are we and what do we really want to do, and how that takes away from even knowing how to pursue our own growth when the time comes, right? It's a great episode. I'll try to remember to link it. So another way we smother our growth is downplaying our skills. Ooh, this is a biggie. This is a biggie, especially for women, because it is not just that we downplay it, but we allow others to downplay our skills. I remember for the longest time, it's still crazy even thinking about this. After I went out on my own and was not doing the lobby per se. So I was doing much more of the coaching and strategic policy planning. I was really hesitant to put JD behind my name, and for a Juris Doctor, because I have my law degree, and because on some aspects I'm not this big person that has to put the titles and 5,000 titles behind their name. Like, that's not me. However, I feel strongly. I'm like, I busted my ass for that law degree, and all the work and the time and the commitment and the money that it cost me. So I should, be proud of it and be able to acknowledge it. And there would be times when other people would acknowledge it before I would. And for whatever reason, I struggled to put that on there. And my excuse for that was, well, I got to be careful about how I position myself, because I'm not coming into this work to practice law now, but as, a consultant, as an executive advisor. Excuses. And recognizing, I was like, I have paid my dues, and that is a title that I get to reference. I get to use, right? Um, and it is so easy for us to question ourselves and the skills that we know we have, not ones that we're thinking about developing or that we know are like, we're talking about the stuff we already know we have. We have the background, we have the skill set, and we'll just downplay it. And instead of saying, one says, "Oh, that was so fantastic. I don't know how you did that." Like, "Oh, it's no big deal." Mm-mm. Stop doing that. A couple of years ago, gosh, I can't believe it's been almost 2 years, but I was doing a strategic planning engagement for an organization here in town, and one of one of the staffers uh, who I'd known and worked with before, young lady, and she came to me later and she was just like, I had no idea how you were going to pull all of that together because it just looked like a bunch of mumble jumble to me, and I questioned it. And so to see it all come together, I'm just like, wow. I mean, those were her words to me, to which I had to say thank you. I said, I've been doing this a while. I've got things down to where I can really work through it and make sure to dig in when I need it, but not downplaying it, because there would have times I'm like, oh well, yeah, it's not as, no, no more downplaying. I have spent years developing this skill and the ability to work through this process and to help people and organizations get to where they need to be when it comes to the planning process and to long range planning. So, yes, thank you. And it takes time and it takes effort, but it takes remembrance within ourselves not to downplay that, because we do smother our growth opportunities when we downplay it and say, oh, it's not that big a deal. No. Another way we smother our growth, which I referenced kind of with the first thing, which is just flat out ignoring our needs, just flat out ignoring what we need today in the moment, in a situation, with certain people. What is it that you need? What is it that I need right now? And then going to get it, right? Because if we don't have the things that we need and don't pursue it, then we just, things just start to shrink, and it just becomes one excuse after another while, and then we just start hiding. You literally just start hiding. I've done it multiple times through several transitions, and it's literally the red flag of, oh, there's stuff going on. Because why am I doing that? So I'm going to tell you that it is a journey. It's not like all of a sudden you get to a point and then you're never going to do it again. No, because every time you're ready to up level and go to a new way of being, guess what? You're going to face some familiar obstacles along the journey, even though the path may be fresh or a little bit different. Some of the obstacles really are not. And that's because they start within our own selves, right? By not acknowledging what our needs are and thereby just putting that fire out, right? And it just becomes easier to hide rather than to step up and to do the thing, be the person, ask for the help. And so there's lots of reasons why we would do this, right? Number one, tired. I know that was definitely me for some years, with so much change going on at one time, um, leaving an executive level job, starting work on, a legislative and lobby work on my own, then with partners, with small kids in tow, with the family relying on my income, and then that evolving to a whole nother level. I was tired. Like, I just got to a point I was tired. I was more than tired. I was burned out. And that can take a toll. And so when you're tired and burnt out, then yeah, you're just not even trying to think about next level stuff, because you're like, I'm too tired to think about it. I'm too tired to deal with it. And another aspect where, it can be easy to smother our growth, is just feel unsupported. That's a biggie. If you don't feel like you have the support that you need, it leads to, again, more exhaustion, perhaps emotionally, spiritually, and lots of resentment. I have been there. That resentment is a it is a barn burner. I mean, it will take you out. If the exhaustion and the burnout from doing all the things doesn't, resentment will definitely, right? And that requires some work. And then there are times we're just scared. We're just scared about what it is we're supposed to do next or how we're supposed to do it and what is it going to mean. All of these things are human, they're natural. There's nothing to be ashamed about with them, right? But the thing is that hiding from yourself means that you are unavailable to meet your purpose and your higher calling. We all have one. There's a reason why we're all here. My reason is different from yours. It has evolved over the years. Things that I thought where I was like, oh my goodness, 30 years ago are now passe. Like I accomplished certain things. And then I got to that level and I realized there was something new to pursue or a new way I needed to show up for myself. And that is, again, the case now. And it means something to make sure that you're not hiding, that you stop running and do the work. Bottom line, it's work to get to the next level where you want to be as a person, as a professional, as a business owner, as a leader, whatever the title. There is work to be done. And the sad thing is that people think that if they just ignore it, that it'll be fine and they'll just move along. But guess what? If you don't have the right foundation under yourself, it'll get snatched from under you because that means you're building on someone else's, you know, oh, dare I say, use the analogy, you're building on someone else's property and still it's not your own. And so you get moved away. You got to build this for yourself, establish the foundation for yourself for what it is you want. And it doesn't mean you always have to know right up front, but it does mean that you're going to put in the work to discover what that is, right? And clear the path for yourself as opposed to being dependent on other people to clear it for you. Such a huge difference. Huge difference when you're no longer waiting or depending on other people to say what you can and cannot do or to define who you're going to be. You want to talk about some freedom when you're like, I'm a little tired of that. And no, that does not work for me. No, thank you. Here's where I am. Here's what I want to do. When I work with my one-on-one executive clients, oh my gosh, it is so powerful to see that come to fruition. Now, of course, this is what I do for a living, and I can see it so clearly for them, but I can't make it happen for them, right? They have to walk that journey, walk that path for themselves to get to it and experience it. I can be there as the guide to help them know it's possible and to push them to go explore some things within that they might have been pushing down, that they were hiding from, that they were using as an excuse not to level up their own personal growth. But once they get that, oh my goodness, it is a powerful, wonderful thing to see and to experience. There is a great book that has it been 2 years, 2.5? I'm not quite sure, somewhere in there, during one of those last kind of pivots or kind of growth points for me. I'm still in one, but I guess probably this was the beginning of it. And it's the book is called How We Heal by Alex Elle. That's last name ELLE, and she can be found on Instagram. I think she has a Substack. Um, but anyway, it's a fantastic book. I highly recommend it. And I recommend that you take it and keep a journal with you while reading it because some of it is just one of those things like you really need to take the time to think about what it is you've experienced in your life and that you've left unhealed, that you've left unresolved. And sometimes when you talk about healing, people just go immediately to, personal matters and relationships at home and, parents and things like that. No, no, no. It is not left just to that, because when I tell you some of the biggest things that I've had to heal from were work related trauma, I mean that. Oh my gosh. Work related issues will definitely wear you out and um, keep you hiding, because you can lose your self confidence very easily based on some negative experiences in the workplace. So I encourage you to go check out that book, and take it. It's not a preachy book. It's very much more from a human and spiritual standpoint, in terms of, just, hey, exploring how you're feeling about things, how you've experienced things in your life, and what you have or have not dealt with examples. That was the best thing about it. Like, she gave examples, not just from her own life, but from other uh, working women, female professionals, authors, all types of things, backgrounds, where she talked to them about their situations and how rich. It may be time for me to read that one again, because it was a good little book. And I did keep a journal with it. I always recommend a good journal, y'all. I mean, hello. I need to get one. I need to sign off on some, whatever, because I'm a huge fan of it. I've been journaling since I was a child, and I think it's part of the writer in me. But I really have not come into my own on it until more recent years, to utilize it for growth. I have tons of them, right? I have my idea journals, and I have my business ones where I, keep track of my business ideas. And then I started morning pages a few years ago, after uh, reading and engaging in The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron. Um, and I don't keep it up as well as I would like, but I do. And I also give myself some slack, because I know that I am a journaler in so many different ways, that I am always writing those things out. And that's one of those things, because sometimes you can be afraid of what it is really coming across your brain. And there's nothing like putting pen to paper and seeing it written, in black and white, and having to come to terms with it, right? So I highly recommend it. If you're not someone who can do that from scratch, there are tons of journals out there that have journal prompts in them. I have some content that I'm looking at, releasing it in that form. Haven't gotten there yet, but there's definitely some where you can have help, and just go, do a little search for um, the type of journal that you might be interested in, or topics, and just write, journals with prompts in them, and see what comes your way. Um, Having an accountability partner really is helpful as well. I've had a series of them down through the years, and it depends on what it is you're looking for. But I think it's really important to have an accountability partner that you can share the totality of who you are, not just, oh, I'm, Patricia, the lawyer over here, so I'm not going to tell you about this personal, like, mess that's going on this other side, or vice versa. So I highly recommend in having someone that you can share freely with, from where you are any day and moment. I have gained a couple of them, new ones. One in particular, who is very much stays on my case and I on hers when it comes to things both personal and professional, and supporting each other and asking the questions, and or saying, no, you're not crazy, don't do that, or you're fine, it's okay to feel that way, right? We need that. that that support doesn't have to be big. It doesn't have to be 1,000 people. One or two or three normally will take care of it. So if you don't have one already, then I encourage you to pursue that. And if you're like, I'm not sure, sometimes you got to pay for the help you need, right? You know, some folks need to go to therapy and get a therapist. Others are like, I really want to approach this from a more strategic and holistic way. So maybe it's in terms of a coach who will help you work through some issues, whatever it is. But put that level of accountability in place to help you. And the last thing you got to do is you've got to take the next step. It's bottom line. You can't get somewhere and you can't achieve that growth if you don't actually take the next step, right? Um, you got to come out of hiding. You got to face the fear. You got to let go of the resentment. You got to refresh, rebuild your capacity, rebuild your energy, and do what needs to be done so that you can get to the next level of who it is you want to be, how you want to be that person, and achieve those goals. It's not even about achieving goals, but as much as it's about being the right person and the person you want to be at the next level, right? And that's really where it ends up. And there's a path, right? It's not all going to come in one fell swoop. Most of the time it doesn't. If it does, it's a crisis situation, and that's never good. So I encourage you to think about that and to be mindful of making sure that you stop playing hide and seek with your personal growth and actually come to terms and do the work that needs to be done so that you can live life the next level as you want to and enjoy it. How about that? How about enjoying it as well? So there we are. Once again, my name is Patricia. So glad to be here. And in this part of the internet, we love sharing about all things leadership, relationship building, empowering yourself and others, and making sure you take really good care of yourself as you move to the next level in your life and career um, as a female professional and entrepreneur. And as always, got to remind you and ask you to please press that thumbs up, press that like button, subscribe so that this can get pushed out. And if you enjoyed it, share it with someone. And if you're interested, make sure you check at the links in the description for some of the information, and or to say, hey, I might, maybe we can work together. Happy to have a conversation about doing that. All right. So here you are. Remember to celebrate yourself and who you are and all your greatness every single day in all the ways and in everything you do. All right. Take care. Bye.